blind people, not just a certain kind of blind person, all blind people of all intersecting characteristics. And I appreciate the work of this affiliate to talk openly and honestly about what that means in our organization as we all learn to be more inclusive and more understanding of each other. That's real work, right? It's not something we can just get from a textbook. The way we learn is by interacting with each other, and our code of conduct sets that forward. We've also been doing a lot of work this year to re-examine what we're doing to make sure that our organization truly addresses the societal issues around sexual misconduct. And I appreciate those here in Colorado who have been a part of having those open and honest conversations. Earlier this week, I announced the formation of our Blind Survivors group in the National Federation of the Blind, to be led, co-chaired by Catherine Webster and Danielle Montour. This is a positive step for our organization. This is a transition from the task force that we had earlier this year, and it will create an important space where survivors of sexual misconduct and abuse can find ways to heal and participate fully in our organization. Now, these aren't easy conversations to have, right? And they're emotional and difficult. But we need to find a way to lead on these issues. We need to find ways to do this right. So earlier this year, the board of directors appointed a special committee of individuals who were to investigate what has happened in the past in the Federation and what our response has been. And the board has been receiving recommendations from our special committee, from our task force, and also through our partnership with Marin, who is the leading organization dealing with sexual misconduct and violence in this country. We have a deep commitment to taking real actions to make the Federation safer and more supportive every day. And you heard me say at the National Convention that we want Federation safe, or safe in the Federation, to mean something. And that's not just about the leaders of this organization. It takes each and every one of us. We've been engaged in a number of difficult conversations this year to talk about how to do that as an organization, as a volunteer organization with a diverse membership. So I would ask you all to tune in on Monday night, is our next presidential release live. Hopefully some of you have been tuning in and joining the... So all the people on the left side of the room, apparently. Well, I encourage you to keep tuning in, and if you haven't been, please do so, because you're going to get a little more information than you're going to get in the presidential release that's presented to chapters. But I want you to tune in Monday night, because we're going to have some important announcements around the next version of our code of conduct. So Colorado gets the first heads up on this. And we're going to need your input over the next 30 days, because the board of directors is going to meet in December and vote on the next version of the code, which will go into effect in January. We need your input. We're putting out a draft. We want to hear your feedback. Where did we get it right? Where didn't we get it right? What's unclear? We need you to tell us. And that fits in with our second value, which is courage. You know, fighting for freedom takes perseverance and unwavering determination in the face of challenges and setbacks. Courage is what allows us to not just look internally at ourselves and our organization, but to look at society and say, no, we will not wait. That is not enough, and we deserve equal treatment, and we want it now. And there are so many areas where that's needed, right? But this organization has led the way in areas where at one time hardly anybody else in disability was touching it. And the thing that I think about the most in that regard is the elimination of Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act. That this organization took a stand to say we not only need to eliminate this for blind people, but for all people with disabilities. That's kind of interesting standing here in 2021, right? Because, man, we have made a ton of progress on this issue. But guess what? Still legal, still in the law. We need to get the transition to competitive employment act through Congress. And we've done a great job getting agencies, states to eliminate the use of Section 14C, but we still need to get H.R. 2373 through Congress. We need Congress to take this next and final step, if for no reason, for at the highest level of government to endorse the work that the disability community has done to make this happen. So Colorado currently has no House co-sponsors on this bill. So that's your challenge, is to get members of Congress here in Colorado to support that act. That's your first challenge. And employment is something we take very seriously in this organization. A lot of organizations say they know what to do about the employment of blind people. They have the great idea. What we know is that you can't solve the employment issues that blind people face with a silver bullet. It takes a network of activities. And so in the National Federation of the Blind, we're putting together our Center for Employment Opportunities. And that reflects our high expectations, because that's the CEO. It's not just enough to get jobs. We want blind people to run the thing, right? So this week, we launched our Employer Leadership Network. We're partnering with employers all across the country to say, we want you to partner with the Blind of America to have honest conversations about blind people in your workplace, or why they're not in your workplace, about how it's not enough to hire blind people when all of your systems will be inaccessible to us. And so I encourage you, if you're seeking employment, to find ways to plug in to the Federation Center for Employment Opportunities as we build this out. One thing we are definitely going to be doing is leveraging the tremendous expertise of our Federation training centers. So Colorado is going to be right in the middle of the CEO, and we need your ideas about how to make that happen. Now, during COVID, there have been many attacks on our rights as blind people. First and foremost, there have been efforts to diminish the Americans with Disabilities Act because of COVID-19. And we as an organization have pushed back on those efforts whenever we have found them, whether it's been in the Congress or in local communities. And we have fought in and amongst many people fighting for resources to help blind people who need it the most. And most significantly, we got a significant appropriation into last year's bills for our Randolph-Shepherd vendors who were being left on the sidelines. And the Federation worked on this collaboratively across the country for 10 months. But we finally got it into the bill and got it passed right about Christmas time. Now, a lot of people think, well, you get a bill passed, you're done. And that's not the Federation, right? We kept the pressure on, thanks to the leadership of our National Association of Blind Merchants, to make sure that the Department of Education actually got the money out to the people who needed it. And I know Colorado, you were leaders in that effort, so congratulations again, and thank you for your engagement in our national effort. COVID presented so many other challenges for us, right? Getting access to testing or vaccinations with inaccessible websites. And we've created agreements with organizations like Curative to make sure that they fix the accessibility of their vaccination websites today, but that's going to influence the accessibility of their healthcare websites well into the future. And that's because of the work of the National Federation of the Blind, and because we coordinate across the country. So we were able to get data from Colorado and other states and use that as leverage to continue to move organizations forward and to get information about the lack of access out into the media. And we've been successful in getting a lot of media exposure about the real problems that blind people have faced during COVID, not the made-up problems that some people wanted to label us with. And that brings me to the third value, and that's respect. Our faith in the capacity and dignity of blind individuals is at the heart of our mission. We assert the right to be treated fairly and equally. We reject society's low expectations that come from the ingrained belief that blindness is the characteristic that exclusively defines us. I find myself in this national report congratulating Colorado quite a bit. You notice that?
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
But when I think about respect, it's okay to give yourselves applause. We need somebody to lead, right? But when I think about respect, the number one thing I think about for blind people is the right to parent. Now this is, yeah, absolutely. And that parent, grandparent, caregive of any type, for some of us that means figuring out how to take care of our parents as they age and making sure that we're not excluded from that because of our blindness, a real problem that some people are facing across the country. We've been doing tremendous work on this across the country, but thank you, Colorado, for putting together what I think is one of the strongest bills any state has passed on this topic. So hats off to you for again leading the way. Please continue to visit blindparents.org. Let us know how we can build a better network of blind people across the country to share with each other to raise expectations. I know that what made the difference for Melissa and I when we were planning to be parents is we had other blind parents to call upon. And we need to carry that forward for so many others, not just to protect the rights, but to give us the real tips and tricks that blind people use. I know when my oldest child was born, the doctor came by, this very powerful, is our first child, and said, I looked all around in there. I didn't find a manual. I thought, man, that is the best thing to tell a new parent, right? Because as a new parent, you can read all the books you want. There's nothing like on-the-job training. And part of on-the-job training is realizing you don't know what you don't know. You have to do the best you can. So many areas where we're creating respect for blind people. And then there's another important one that we've worked on a national basis that comes back here to Colorado. A number of years ago, we created a landmark settlement in the state of Maryland to protect the right of blind prisoners. Blind people, yeah, absolutely. Most of us don't think about prison on a daily basis. Certainly I don't. But you know what? Blind people face very significant discrimination in prison. The same sort of discrimination we face out here, but it is even more brutal when it's in the system that is there to keep them. And in Maryland, we created an agreement with the state to raise expectations for blind prisoners. We're bringing that expertise now to Colorado, where we're working on the next phase of creating an agreement to systemically raise expectations for blind prisoners. Look, we don't want blind people in prison, but if a blind person finds themselves in that position, they shouldn't be further held down because they're blind. They shouldn't have to compromise their basic dignity simply because they're a blind person. And they shouldn't be denied access to the resources that might actually help them reform themselves and be better. And this extends to people who often find themselves, for various reasons, becoming a blind person in prison. And can you imagine how hard that would be without access to real rehabilitation training? Now, some people say, well, why would we worry about this? Because we don't have a lot of members who are in prison, at least that we know of. They're not usually attending local chapter meetings. But we need equal access everywhere, right? We need equal access everywhere. Because if there is a place in this society where we are not respected as blind people, as equals, you better believe it has an impact on what we do right here today. Respect. Another area of value for us is full participation. We assert that blind people have the right to live fully and equally in the world. And from this flows our expectation that society will not put up artificial barriers in our way. Wait a minute, here's Colorado again. Man, love this place. Yeah, it's sincere. Look at this. In 2020, look, I sent a letter to every Secretary of State in September of 2019 saying, y'all better get your act together and make sure blind people can vote in 2020 and not just at the polls, but absentee. Hardly anybody listened, but what happened? The world got turned upside down. And imagine if they had listened. Blind people would have had much better access in 2020 to voting. But this organization set forth an aggressive agenda to protect voting rights anywhere and everywhere in this country, and we made significant progress. And hats off again to Colorado for setting an aggressive pace on that regard. We know that this is significantly influenced state by state. You all are leading the way. We heard about it yesterday in the presentation here at the convention. We need those hard questions to be asked, not just about how we have a kind of access, but real access to all parts of the voting process. We continue to seek ways to get accessibility to be raised in Congress. If there is ever significant voting reform in Congress, we are going to need this affiliate along with our others to let your voice be heard that accessibility should be a core part of any federal voting reform that happens. Has to be there. We're going to need you to get on the phone and make those calls, because it is going to get compromised out if Congress doesn't hear from us. So stay tuned on that. But it's not just voting. There's other areas, right? Medical device accessibility. We got a bill in Congress. We have a bill in Congress on this issue, HR 4853. Guess how many co-sponsors we have from Colorado? 0. Yes, another challenge for you. We need access to medical devices. We need non-visual access. We have a bill in Congress to do this. We continue to look at other ways to solve this problem. But let's get this bill moving in Congress. Let's get some Colorado co-sponsors on this bill. Now, full participation is not just about what we do in Congress. It's also about how we get the message and the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind out into local communities. So we've rebranded October as Blind Equality Achievement Month. because we wanted to broaden the conversation from just meeting us, but really celebrating our achievements and recognizing how much farther we have to go in society. As we come to the end of October, I give you these two things. Number one, we don't want just 1 month. We want all the months so that the promotion continues, right? We have to continue to share our philosophy. But look, we need a concentrated time when we get the word out. We need your ideas from the grassroots about what this month should look like, what we can do to amplify our message and make it more effective. So as we come to the end of this Blind Equality Achievement Month, please give our national organization feedback on what would be more effective and helpful at the local level. Now, coming back to Congress, we're coming so close to helping blind people make new strides. Our Access Technology Affordability Act would give a refundable tax credit to blind people, and it was part of the massive bill that's being considered in Congress. I hate to report that it got cut in the latest agreement. That's bad news. But we're going to continue to look at what we can do to get this bill through Congress. And there's one tried and true way to get the Access Technology Affordability Act through Congress, and that is get co-sponsors. Now, in Colorado, we're doing pretty good on the House side. This is H.R. 431. We've gotten a number of co-sponsors. And I think we could do better. We could do better at getting more co-sponsors. I don't think we have everybody yet from Colorado on this bill. Now, just 2 days ago, on the Senate side, S212, Colorado picked up Michael Bennett as a co-sponsor. So 50%, not bad, but let's get the other members of Congress on board. It's too bad we got cut out of the current conversation, but our bill is still going to move forward. And if we get enough co-sponsors, it will have to move forward. If anything in Congress actually can move forward. But we have bipartisan support for this. This is probably the only piece of legislation that actually has deep bipartisan support. Let's keep moving it forward. Full participation. Well, one thing that has become clear, we were already working on it in the pandemic, but people have been rushing to it, is the idea of having kiosks in every public place so that you don't actually have to interact with a human, but a kiosk, right? Now, this is not new to the Federation. We've been working on this. We got an agreement with the Social Security Administration on kiosks, and we settled a dispute in California to get their vendor, ITI, to make all of their DMV kiosks that are found in supermarkets and other public places to be accessible. Apparently, the Department of Motor Vehicles in California didn't think blind people had anything to do with cars, so they didn't make them accessible, but they have now. We announced earlier this year, McDonald's kiosks, right? You can see who gets really excited about that. But look, okay, so some people say, why McDonald's? Okay, well, it's a place of public accommodation. Why McDonald's? That's a big deal brand, first and foremost, right? If we get McDonald's to do it, other people will pay attention. So we have more work to do. These self-service kiosks are the wave of the future, and we haven't gotten the laws or the courts to fully recognize that we need privacy and independence just like everybody else in all of these transactions. And by the way, this is not new technology. We know how to do this, right? So, kiosks, when you find them, Let us know about your experience. Share it with us at the national level, with our legal team, with our access technology team. Now, when I talk about kiosks, some people say, well, wait a minute. Why are we worried about kiosks? When did we forget about websites? We haven't forgotten about websites. We're working on website accessibility all the time. I encourage you to visit our accessibility switchboard, where we collect best practices to help businesses make sure that their websites are accessible, and we promote standards. And we are going to get a federal bill to advance website accessibility. It's coming. We're going to need to push it. We have some champions on it. We've been trying to get everybody in the blindness community on board with this. They all have opinions about what the bill shouldn't say. We're taking their opinions into account if we think we can reasonably accept their edits. But here's the proof in the pudding. Who's going to be on Capitol Hill to advance this bill when it drops? I think it's going to be this organization. And I challenge anybody out there to meet the standard of the Federation. So we're going to have a website accessibility bill. We're going to need Colorado to be a great voice to get it passed. Absolutely. Okay, I only have 150 things to go. But let's talk about healthcare real quick. Healthcare, that's been clear in the pandemic. We need much better access to healthcare. We got an agreement with the Office of Personnel Management at the federal level to make sure that they require the federal government healthcare websites to be accessible. That's going to extend to a lot of other places. We've been working in North Carolina to make sure that blind people can get access to Braille statements, bills, and the information that you get when your doctor sends you on your way. That should be accessible. If any of you have had experience lately with LabCorp, again, coming back to accessible kiosks, we need to hear about your experiences. We're investigating the inaccessibility of LabCorp kiosk check-in processes, so please reach out to us at the national level regarding that organization. Let me talk real quickly about our legal work. We do a lot of legal work. But it's just, keep in mind, it's just one tool. It's one tool. Despite the popular myth, we don't like to sue everybody. As an organization, some of us, we don't like to sue everybody because it's not the most effective tool always. You know, we go to organizations all the time and say, here's what you could do. We could work together. And they ignore us. Walmart. And so we don't always want to sue somebody. It's not true. But we are willing to use the legal hammer when we have to get systemic change. And we have the best expertise in this area. Our legal program, we are very strategic, and we look for systemic opportunities. You can go to our webpage, nfb.org/legal. You'll find information about what we're working on currently. But look, if you have a situation, report it to us at the national level. That's important data because we'll combine that with other data we're getting, and it helps us know where we should point our legal advocacy. Okay, it's not just legal though. We explore programs that help demonstrate to the rest of the nation what we should be doing for blind people, and we do that through our Jernigan Institute. And we have continued to do that through the pandemic. How many people got students to participate in our Braille Enrichment for Literacy and Learning in-home edition? Absolutely. We've continued to provide Braille instruction throughout the pandemic. When a lot of people shut down and said, we'll have to wait, we said no. We figured out how to retool, and that is going to impact our 2022 Braille Enrichment program, where we're going back to having in-person programs, right? But we recognize that there is a need for virtual instruction for certain families. So we're still going to have our in-home edition with a limited number of slots. We continue to raise expectations to help families get access to the vital education programs they need, and that can only happen when our affiliate takes advantage of the national infrastructure we put together. Now, we're partnering with the American Action Fund for Blind Children and Adults on the Braille Readers Are Leaders contest again. That's going to be coming up in November. I'd encourage, I heard some conversation this morning about how do you really get engaged with upping your Braille reading skills, not just for kids, adults. Braille Readers Are Leaders. There's a contest coming up, and you can win cool prizes too. So check it out. Also, since we're talking about that, we continue to have a partnership with Santa Claus to provide Braille copies of letters from Santa Claus. And we're expanding that program this year to offer winter letters. So if those who may not culturally recognize Santa Claus, you'll have some opportunities to get a winter letter in Braille as well. So look for that. There are so many other programs to talk about, and I'm going to be out of time here shortly. Our programs, you can find them in our communications. What we try to do at the national level is set up model programs with the purpose ultimately of helping to build the National Federation of the Blind. That's the most important program we have, is having a movement of blind people. Our goal is to build the movement. And so one thing we're undertaking, you heard me talk about it at the National Convention, is our next big project is to build a civil rights museum to tell the stories of this movement to everybody at our national office. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of effort. But we need to be right up there with the other great civil rights organizations in this country. And we are going to be, I'm going to put this out here publicly for the first time. We're going to be, by November 16, 2025. That only happens with your help and support. Okay, two other values. Sorry, Scott, I'm going to go quick. Democracy, right? Value number 5. I just gave you a bold idea. It's only going to carry weight if you all believe in it and decide to vote for it, because this organization is democratically run. And where does that happen? Our national convention. And you will want to be in New Orleans next year. It's going to be a great convention. Some of you were at the 97 New Orleans convention. This is going to be an even bigger homecoming for obvious reasons. Come to the convention. Find a way to get to the convention. There is nothing like being in person with each other. And we're going to want to be together and celebrate the great work that we've done and set a path forward for our organization. And the convention is a way that happens. Now, we have a number of ways of sharing information, and I want to call out again the Presidential Release Live. Because of your feedback, we've continued to do that, and we've continued to innovate around it, and we need you to continue to engage in our communication tools, how we bring the national organization down to the local level. Okay, I've talked about a lot of things and a lot of programs, and I've skipped over a lot of things. And I want to come to our final value, and that is love. The National Federation of the Blind provides a loving, supportive, and encouraging family, which shares in the challenges and the triumphs of our blind members. Love is the feeling we get when we gather together, when we share our hard stories with each other, we share the successes that we've had. When we recognize that we're making a real commitment, when we spend our time, energy, and finance to support this movement. Now, I thought it was significant that our president here in Colorado, you read through the whole agenda, what's the last thing you see? Love. He signs it love, Scott LaBar. That's what we do in our organization because it's real. And so I'm going to ask you as I close to recognize there's more work we need to do. And it can only happen if each and every one of you look into your heart and decide what you can do to spread more love throughout this organization. And if it's your time, we need it. If it's helping people out, we need it. If it's coming up with new ideas and helping to implement it, we need it. If it's writing blog posts, we need it. And if it's financial, if you can do that, we need that too. Get on the PAC plan, please. I was required to say that. There's so many other ways. And look, if you can check all of those boxes, do it. But if you can only do one, pick one and do it with love. Because that is how, together with love, hope, and determination, we transform dreams into reality. Let's go build the National Federation of the Blind.
Thank you, Mark. That was tremendous. It is impossible in a report like that to touch on everything that the Federation is doing. I have the privilege of sometimes representing Mark and the national organization at state conventions, and we get this memo before we go about what's going on. It's usually 14 or 15 single-spaced pages of information, and it's not a long narrative, it's bullets, right? But it's still that long, and there's no way you can cover it all. But I thought he did a tremendous job of covering a lot of it. Congratulations, President Riccobono. You've demonstrated again why we elected you as our president. And because of that and the significance of it, we're going to do two things. We need a big old door prize. Can you help me? Anybody help me out there? Mo?
No, sorry.
Aaron?
We'll get you a great door
Brittany? Big.
We are
Now,
going to do...
if you don't have a big one, I'll skip you for a minute so you can get a big one,
Well,
and then we're going to go to the auction.
How do you feel about $25? I know.
No, that's not big. Not big enough. Nope. I'm coming back to you until you do better. So, we're now going to recognize the auctioneer extraordinaire once again, Marianne Miglietti.
I love you, Scott. You know, the more times I see Scott, the more I realize I really love Scott. This is a good thing. It is about love. I was told long ago in this organization, the only way to be a success in this organization is to love all blind people, whether they are in this room, out of this room, in some other country, people you've never even thought about. Start thinking about them, because that is who we are and what we do. And part of what we do is celebrate things awesome in the Federation. And that way, we are going to start the auction today with something that you don't have on the auction list, but it came to us, and I think it's a fabulous way to start the celebrating. It is a beautiful, heavy, fabulous rum cake donated by Dan Burke, Julie Deeden, and Gary Van Dorn. It is in the hotel fridge being kept nice and cold. So somebody could be having an amazing party this afternoon in your room. And if you win this, I want your room number. I'm just saying. It is a $50 value to start with. And LaBar is already opening it up at 50. 55 says Janine. Is that Beecham over there? Could we get a little less enthusiasm, Beecham? She already said 60. She did. Nice try, Janine. I heard 60 from Beecham. Let's move. 65, Jeanette. Beecham says 70. She sounds very resigned right now. She's not even a president and she's resigning. 85, Janine.
Wow.
85 going once. 90 is Beecham. 95. We're moving quick. 95 once. 100. Beecham. Beecham, did you ever find that bread last night? Oh, good. I'm coming to your place. 100. Going once. 110, Jeanette. Which Jeanette is that? Jeanette who? Gonzalez. Okay. There's more than one Jeanette running around this affiliate. Beecham with a question. It's like a good, solid, very thick 9x13 at least. I mean, to me, it felt like a good quarter sheet or more. Too darn much to hold in one hand. Look, I hear 100, and what was it, 10? 115 Beecham. Come on, let's move it, guys.
1 billion, Alfonso.
Alfonso, unless you've got somebody here that can get it to you, we're not gonna have you bid it because we can't ship it.
We can ship free matter, right, or no?
I did not hear what he said.
Like ship free matter for the blind, or no?
No, it's perishable.
Okay.
Fun joke, not doing it.
Okay. All right.
All right, what were we at, 125? 125, 130 Beecham. Going once, twice, sold. And now while we're celebrating, this is the time to be celebrating some cool things, and it is Halloween. So, for one thing, yeah, that's right, spooky stay. We're going to talk about a spooky stay, and Renee, if you're in the room, pop up this way. But we are going to talk about something that's not on the agenda, but is awesome. How many people like The Shining? How would you like to go stay? Yeah, at the Stanley Hotel. Yes. Sorry. I knew I was going to have fun this morning with this one. For those who cannot hear on the Zoom, Scott is over here going, red rum, red rum. Oh, Lord. I'm going to have fun with y'all all day. I'm just telling you. We have a $350 weekday stay. This means it's a Sunday through Thursday stay at one of the either 2 queens or a king room. I'm sure you can do a tour while you're up there because I kind of almost want this myself. I just got to figure out how to get there. But 350 stay, let's start it at 125. It is one night. You're welcome to add to it. Penn Street, 150. Yeah. 150 going once. Who is that? Julie Newman. Okay. Sorry, around here you definitely have to say last names with Julie. 175 going once. Whoa. Who? Okay. 200. It's a $350 value. Spooky stay. 200 once. Newman, 225. 225. Can I hear 250? 225. Do I hear 250? Going once, twice, Sold. Julie, when you do give your, when you purchase this, please give your email to Gary Van Dorn or come and see me. I have this as a digital certificate. So thank you for that. We have one of our mystery pieces up. It's the last one for the moment. You're going to come around. And I am going to pass this price off to somebody. Number 12, it is our Halloween Sweets and Treats Cauldron. And I'm here to tell you guys, this is not small. Yes, come down this way. Yeah. Go down, go around. It is, I'm telling you guys, if you don't have your Halloween treats, trick or treats yet, this is the thing to buy. It is, Renee estimates this is a $45 buy. I think it might be more. Big bags of candy, full-size candy bars, not little, just little stuff. And it is definitely worth the time and effort, and now the dogs are tangled. Renee, hold on, to my right. There you go.
All right.
I'm moving this forward, and I'm passing off what we need to pass off. Right
Okay.
here to the man who gets the things,
Where's the microphone?
right in front of you. And it's still low.
Oh, okay.
It's on the podium.
All right. Hope you can hear me.
Get a little closer.
I'm short. Okay.
I would note, please put out, we're not recommending this for Zoom folks unless they've got.
Yeah, this is not going to be for Zoom folks because it'll probably cost you about $50 in shipping. This is a very large cauldron full of lots of candy. There is, like Marianne said, full-size candy bars, big bags of sugary candies, Reese's pumpkins, and there's also candy corn. It's candy corn day, so you know, whatever. We're gonna do it in increments of 5, starting at $5. Who do we got?
Whithouse at 5, and I'll be there tonight in person to get it.
Who is that?
Jody Whithouse, the pregnant lady.
Okay.
Nobody better steal candy from the baby.
Oh my goodness, one at a time, one at a time.
It's going
I
down.
cannot hear you.
I've heard 25. Let it.
Okay. Okay, Lily for 40 is the last I heard.
Whithouse for 75.
Whithouse,
Hold on, 75.
don't worry about the price.
Who? I'm sorry, I can't hear. For how much? 80. Okay,
Whithouse
anyone?
85.
Okay, Whithouse. 90, Jeanette Gonzalez.
Whithouse.
Okay, Michelle Mitchell, 95.
Whithouse 100.
Whithouse, 100. All right, 110, which for Jeanette.
Stealing candy from a baby. Whithouse 115.
What, 150?
115.
15, thank you. Okay, Whithouse for 115. 124. 130 for Jeanette Gonzalez.
I'm out.
Do we have a 135? All right, going once. You already have it. You already have it, Jeanette. 135 going once. 140 for who was that? Okay. They gotta go $5 increments. $5 increments. 145 Jeanette. Going once. Twice. 150 Marty, you'll love it. Going once. 155 Jeanette Gonzalez. Going once, twice, sold.
Mike, you're an A.
Out to the right. Out to the right. This way? Yep.
All right. Now, door prize people, you got something big.
Now I know you're a big fancy lawyer, so hopefully this will be good for you. We got a $20 Uber gift card,
Okay, got it.
$50 in cash,
Hey, now you're.
and
Yeah,
while
yeah.
you're sitting around here, you have some peanut brittle that you can snack on.
Now, see, that's a lot better. I appreciate
right.
you working on it. Who's going to win it?
Dorothy Griffin.
Dorothy, are you online, Dorothy? Raise your hand. NFB of Georgia president. Yes, she
Dorothy
is.
Griffin, raise your hand.
Dorothy will give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Well, this fabulous prize now goes to Joanne Franklin.
Hold on. Dorothy Griffin
Stand by,
hand went
stand by.
up. Dorothy Griffin is in under the wire.
Uh-oh. All right. Thank you, Dorothy. Now you got to come to Colorado and get it. No, we'll get it to you. All right. Let's move on to the next item if we can. Turning Federation philosophy into the realization of our dreams. A report from the Colorado Center for the Blind. Everybody has heard me say that this is our chief program, our most important endeavor, the one thing that we have done that has changed the most lives. Thanks to Diane and Ray McGeorge, we were able to start the Colorado Center for the Blind. And thanks to all of us who have supported it over the years, all the work we've done to grow the program. And I salute, of course, in specific, our executive director, who has done an amazing and wonderful job of building the CCB into a world-leading adjustment to blindness training center. So let's give a warm Federation welcome to the executive director of the Colorado Center for the Blind. In fact, she is back with us in person. Here she is, Julie Deeden.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. And I am so excited to be up here. Every year, I tell you this, but I mean it so much. Every year, that is an honor and a privilege to be the director. I'm already crying, guys, but I'm not going to through the whole speech, I promise. Okay, I'm done now. Okay, it is an honor and a privilege to be the director of the Colorado Center for the Blind, and more than that, to work with all of you to build our center. Now, in the last year, I was looking back, thinking about what it's been like in the last year for all of us in our world, and for all of us at the Colorado Center for the Blind and at the National Federation of the Blind as well. Without Mark Riccobono, Scott LaBarre, the National Federation of the Blind, and all of you, we wouldn't be able to do all the things that we do every day at the center. So we are still dealing with the pandemic, and I am so proud because throughout the full pandemic, the Colorado Center for the Blind has been in full force, and we have been operating classes every day. We've had a little bit of virtual, but not much at all, and we are together, and we are determined to continue to be doing this, and we will be doing this. I have to just tell you that I have to say this, because most state programs that had centers, they closed down, you guys, for as long as a year or longer. But not us at the Colorado Center for the Blind or our other NFB training centers. Now, one thing that has been another challenge this year is making sure that we provide full safety, caring, and warmth for all of our staff and students at the Colorado Center for the Blind. As many of you know, we have been dealing with some allegations that we have been really moving forward on, and we always want our center to feel safe and warm and caring for every single person that attends training and every staff person as well. That's always been my priority, my highest priority, and it always will be. So in this last year, we have been working on having even more trainings for staff and students. We have also been providing so much support to everybody. We always have provided support, but I feel like we're even doing more. And I think that this has given us an opportunity to move forward and to improve upon what we have been doing. I appreciate everyone's support in this area, and I do want to apologize for anyone that had a difficult time when attending training at the center, because we want great things for everybody at the center, and we're going to make sure that that happens for everybody. We have got such a great group of staff at the center, and I'll be recognizing some of our staff members throughout this presentation today, but truly I really want to recognize everybody. Our youth programs are always on the move, and I love all of our programs, of course, and I'm really fortunate because I get to be involved in all of them. I would really like to thank Martin Becerra Miranda for his commitments to our youth programs for the last several years. Thank you so much, Martin. Martin has done so much. Evenings and weekends, and we worked really hard over the last year and a half to make sure that we were providing a lot of programming to our younger blind people. This summer, we had our Confidence/Bell Camp. We had an in-person confidence camp. It went really well. And there's nothing more fun than seeing tiny little kids that are like 5 years old running around the center and feeling proud about using their canes. Also, we had an in-person program for older students who are blind, for high school students. And they didn't even quite know where they, their way around the building when they started. They didn't really know even how to flip a grilled cheese sandwich. At the end of their programs, they were running around the building. They were cooking some gourmet food and just doing such a tremendous job. I'm now really excited to let you all know that our new director of youth programs is Anahit Labar. Anahit is a certified TVI, and she has so many plans for the future of our programs. I must, before I move forward, I need to let you know we still have Martin with us. So Martin is teaching cane travel full-time, and we're really pleased about that as well. But Anahit has jumped in with both feet, as we knew she would. I think she was extremely busy from the minute she started her position. One of the things that we did a couple weeks ago was shot rockets off that everybody made with these bottles, and we put fins on them. And even Kevin Worley, he shot a rocket off, and he said he was in 4th grade. So it was a lot of fun, but we had eight students with us for that. One of the things that I'm really excited about is Homework Club that has started, and we're really working with blind kids who need a little extra help in that area. And as they're learning how to do their homework, they are also learning about that they can do whatever it is they like to do, and there are methods that we can teach them. And what I love about our Homework Club is that, again, it's all around blind role modeling. Is Steve Norman in the room? Oh, you are. Come around. All right, Amanda, you want to show Steve? Okay, so let me tell you about our senior program. Duncan Larson continues to be the most phenomenal director of our senior programs. We also have Chris Parsons, Stephanie Baldwin, and Deshaun Spears. Most recently, we completed our in-person Seniors in Charge program, and we hadn't had an opportunity to do that for a while. So we were excited to have that program. And that program is a residential program where students come and stay with us for a week. One thing that struck me is that the last day, we have an opportunity to go around and everybody talks about the impact that our program has had on them. One of our participants who lives in Aspen talked about that he had lost his vision over the pandemic. And when he lost his vision, he didn't even know if he wanted to live. He was distraught. He didn't know what to do. He learned about the Colorado Center for the Blind and received so much support from our staff. At our Seniors in Charge program, he thanked all of us and said that he now knows he can live a full life and he couldn't wait to go skiing again. A new addition that we have to our staff is Kimberly Crouch-Wong. Kimberly Crouch-Wong works with all of our students in the area of employment opportunities and in the area of academic skills. I have never really seen anyone with the passion, enthusiasm that Kimberly shows when she's talking about how to spell words. She gets so excited about prefixes and suffixes and everything else. And when our students build their skills, they feel so empowered because they know that they can do it and they know that they don't have to be limited. Kimberly has also set up all kinds of job shadows at bakeries, at child care centers, and all over the place so that people can learn about what type of jobs might they want to do. We're currently working with a couple companies that can't wait to hire blind people. We don't see that often. So Circuit Media is pretty excited about working with us and getting people going, and also the Mile High Child Care Center. So it's exciting, and we are going to continue to move forward in this area and make sure that when our students come to the center, they know that they're going to get blindness training, they're going to gain confidence in themselves as blind people, but even more than that, when they move forward in their lives, they're going to have jobs and they're going to be a success. Now, with our independence training program, I really want to thank all of our staff once again for your commitment and your passion and your flexibility in making things happen throughout the pandemic time. One of our students continually used the word resilient, and we are resilient. I want to welcome Maureen Neatfelt back to our staff. Maureen was gone for a while, and she's back. And even since she's been back, she's had brain surgery and all kinds of things. But Maureen has so much love and devotion to all of us and to the center. And so welcome back, Maureen. Next, I want to welcome a couple people to present to you. I'm going to start with Amanda Wetton. Amanda, we're going to have a Tennessee connection this morning, and we have had a Tennessee connection throughout our convention, which is very fun. Amanda Wetton comes to us from Tennessee, and she has made a major sacrifice to be here as she has 4 kids and is married, but decided that she needed to come and have training at the Colorado Center. So here is Amanda. There you go, Amanda. And here's the podium right in front of you. And then you can feel the microphone.
somewhere. Good morning. One of our staff members has started sending out quotes of the day, and I usually read through them and then delete it. Sorry, Sean, but I do. But I do read them. So Thursday morning, he sent out one that really resonated with me. We cannot change everything we face, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And I feel like that defines my experience coming to the Colorado Center for the Blind. I am a mom, I'm a wife, but I was headed back to school. I did a full semester of college with no modifications other than a color change on my computer, with 2 degrees of visual field in one eye. And when I lost that 2 degrees of visual field, I suddenly could not see my phone, read my computer, I could not do my classes, and I was signed up for another full semester, and I was dead in the water. Literally could not do anything. I had never used speech on my phone. I had never used speech on my computer. I also had stopped going places, and I didn't realize how small my world had gotten. I insisted on going to school online because I didn't think I could navigate a campus, and I really let my world get small. And I knew that I needed training, so I began reaching out, I began making phone calls, and I ended up at vocational rehab, and they kind of got me a little bit of training here and there. They got me some, once a week for an hour or so, and I sped through that training so fast, they were like, we can't teach you anything else within a month. But I still didn't have adequate skills, and this was my state vocational rehab. I struggled, and then I met my friend Steve Norman, who's going to speak next, who was a former student of the Colorado Center for the Blind, and he encouraged me that I can live the life I want. I never knew anything about the NFB before I met Steve, and he began some training seminars through our state affiliate in Tennessee, and I learned about NFB philosophy from James Brown, our band leader. And I learned from these guys, and these guys in Tennessee gave me this NFB community that I didn't even know I needed. And Steve sat with me on the phone one night for 3 hours talking to me about his experience at the Colorado Center for the Blind. And even at the end of that 3 hours of hearing all about the independence he had gained, I said, but I've got 2 teenage girls at home still. I can't do that yet. I think I can get through this on my own. Within 2 months, I tried to go back to school. This was March this last year. And I realized my tech skills were inadequate. I could not navigate online courses. I could not do what I needed to do online with the limited tech skills that VR provided for me. And I immediately called my VR counselor and demanded to go to the Colorado Center for the Blind because I deserve the freedom to choose whatever school I want. I knew I needed to navigate a school campus again. I knew I needed the tech school skills, and I knew I wasn't going to get that in Tennessee. And thanks to Steve, I was able to connect with Julie. I was able to get here, and I'm 4.5 months into my program. I'm looking forward to getting back to Tennessee and hitting the ground running, because blind people can run in life. I'm watching people run around here like all day long, and I just think, that's me someday. Soon, I'll be there. My world is expanding because I chose to face my challenges. My world is changing. My life is changing. Thanks to Steve Norman, thanks to the NFB, thanks to Julie Deaton and the Colorado Center for the Blind.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Next, it's my honor to introduce to all of you Steve Norman. I was so excited when I heard that Steve was coming to the convention, and many of you heard him play the sax on Thursday. He's phenomenal, but Steve has just such a compelling story, and I wanted you to hear from Steve. So here is Steve Norman.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I got it. Good morning. Anytime I get a chance to promote the CCB, I'm more than willing. I'm a cheerleader for the CCB. Ever since you can literally talk about my blind life. I lost my sight when I was 22 due to diabetic retinopathy. But you can literally talk about my blind life starting at age 22. Now I'm 39 now. But you can literally talk about it as in a B CCB and a CCB, right? Before CCB and after CCB, because that's how much of a difference it makes. It's changed my life. There was a student who had been to the CCB before I had been, and he talked to me for 2 hours. He's from Tennessee. He talked to me for 2 hours one night, and the president of the local affiliation, of the local chapter there in Nashville, talked to me for 2 hours. 2 hours and one night, and so that's how I got to the CCB. So I'm just passing the baton so it's typical. My life was defined by low expectations before. I can recall being at a Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and I was in the kitchen with, I was at my uncle's house in Ohio, and I was in the kitchen with the kids, and the adults were in the other room and I said, this is not a way to live, I wanted to scream. I didn't have any skills. I didn't know how to walk into the other room and say, no, I deserve a seat at the table. But when I came to the CCB, it was kind of tough. I came when I was 26, and I had started dialysis when I was 24. So I was on dialysis at the time, and I would go to dialysis and then come to the CCB, come to school, and do the classes, and then do it all again. But I was determined to get everything I could out of all of my instructors, squeeze them until I could get everything I could get, because there's a thing about wants and needs, and a want is something you can do without. A need is something you really can't do without. And I needed the CCB. And I feel that other blind people across the nation, across my state, need training like this. And so that's why I've started the seminar series in Tennessee. I've been told to wrap this up in 5 minutes, so I can't get into that much. But I just want to say, the CCB is just, it made such a difference in my life. Now you can define my life as just, I have a whole new confidence, and I just try to get as many people to this point as possible. Now I'm a Braille instructor and a adaptive technology instructor, and I tell each of my students, you can do it. You can do it. You have to have high expectations for yourself, and you have to convince everyone else to have high expectations of you. And so with that, I'll just say thank you to Julie Deaton, Amanda Jutton, sorry. She's been great. She's now instructing in these nightly seminars that we're having in Tennessee. She's going to school by day here, and then coming back and teaching Braille grade 1 for me. And so I just, and she's also been elected on the state board of Tennessee's affiliate, and she's going to do great things in the NFB. And so with that, thank you, Julie. Thank you for the opportunity to say a word on behalf of the CCB. Thank you, Maureen. Maureen's my she's one of my best friends, David, everybody here. I don't want to start naming names, but it's an honor to speak on behalf of the CCB and have a great convention.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. And let's see, the microphone's higher. Okay. So thank you so much, Steve. And I think, it is a commitment to come in for training. Steve didn't feel really well a lot of the time, or some of the time that he was in training. He always pushed through. He did everything. He worked so hard, and he earned his Freedom Bell and feels proud to be a blind person. And now I have to just mention, he was fortunate enough, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Stephen, to get a kidney pancreas transplant, and he's working full time, and he's just doing so great. One thing that we teach each other in the National Federation of the Blind is to give back and to become mentors and role models. Steve Norman has given back to so many people and is such a role model. So thank you again, Stephen, for speaking today. Again, as I mentioned when I started talking, it is a challenge. We are all challenged. We love challenges in the National Federation of the Blind and the Colorado Center for the Blind. We love challenges, and we are going to continue to be moving forward in all areas. We are strong, we are vibrant, and I am so proud to be the director of the Colorado Center for the Blind. One other thing I just want to mention, I thanked Mark and Scott. Thank both of you so much for all of your support. But I also want to thank Dan Burke, my amazing husband, who, without him, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about a million things, or I'm talking about things at 5 a.m, what should we do here? And Dan puts up with it all. So Dan, I love you so much, and thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Right, thank you, Julie, that was wonderful. And Dan, I know, is sick, but he's out there in the Zoomosphere, so we love you, Dan. Get better real quick, and we'll be with you again next year. So let's have a real quick door prize.
All right, so next we have a charcoal mask and a big bag of goodies.
All right.
And it goes to Paul Mcgee, Marianne's husband. I cannot say her last name. Millerelli.
You got him? All right. You'll look lovely. You'll look lovely. So to introduce our next agenda item, I'm going to recognize the current first vice president. Here she is, Ms. Jessica Beecham.
Good morning, everybody. Our next piece is to honor our United States Paralympic goalball athletes that did so well in Tokyo this year. But I have to start out with a piece of sad news. On Thursday, we lost Cody Carmichael. He was one of the residents in the Fort Wayne, Indiana program. He was an alternate to the Team USA in Tokyo, and he had had a long bout with cancer. So I'd like to ask everybody to observe just a moment of silence in memory and honor of Cody. Thank you. Today I want to introduce Tyler Marin Tyler is a tremendous goalball athlete. He's an entrepreneur, and he is an awesome human. So give a warm welcome to Tyler Marin, Team USA goalball.
Thanks for having me here, Jessica. Super excited.
Thank you so much for being here. So this year was a very exciting year for the Paralympics. How many of you guys got to listen to much of the audio described Paralympic happenings?
Yeah.
If you didn't, next time the Paralympics roll around, you need to. I was waking Kevin Kovacs up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You got to listen to this goalball game. It's so exciting. This is amazing. It was really cool to have that kind of access this year. Tyler is, again, one of our Team USA athletes. Tyler, what does it take to even get to the Paralympics?
It's quite a journey. I mean, everything starting off at the foundational levels, which we'll talk about, and just being an athlete. Right. And knowing that you're capable of being physically fit and getting out there and challenging yourself in that way, to make the Paralympics specifically, it takes a tremendous amount of dedication and determination. I moved my family to the Fort Wayne area to be able to train at the residency program. I spent years and years competing and training in the sport. Preparing myself specifically for Tokyo itself. We trained for 2 years straight, very, very few breaks, in and out of different phases of seasons, going to different competitions. So the prep work that goes into it is pretty intense, and it shows. The Paralympics have grown tremendously over the last few decades. The athleticism, the number of countries that participate, the sports that have expanded. It really is pretty amazing to see how much blindness related sports is becoming involved.
And now, just as a clarification, Team USA doesn't automatically get a seat at the Paralympic table, correct? Like, so in goalball.
Absolutely. So, like anything competitive, like, we talk real life, when we talk about sports or employment or life skills, these are things that are hard fought and earned. And so when we talk about the Paralympic competition for goalball, there's 10 slots, right? The host nation gets an automatic bid, and the other 9 are fought for throughout the world. So there's typically 3 different opportunities to qualify, and we count ourselves blessed to be able to say the USA team is often in those top ranks. So it was pretty exciting.
So you made it to the top 10. Tell us about Tokyo.
So, I mean, imagine like the biggest show you could imagine, and that you're just at the center of all of it. The lights and the fireworks and the marching into the stadiums and the suitcases full of swag and jackets, hats, shoes, pants, the interviews, the ups and downs of wins and losses, and the volunteers and people clapping for you everywhere you go, and pictures. And it's incredible, an incredible experience to be able to go. You're a celebrity, you really are a celebrity. And it's really neat to be part of the Paralympics, which the term para meaning parallel, right? Parallel to the Olympic Games. In a lot of ways, the Paralympics has almost surpassed the Olympic Games in the way that people see the athletes, the recognition of the incredible athleticism, not just the great stories about people overcoming challenges, but the actual physical ability of these athletes is just incredible. So Tokyo was amazing. The Japanese people, the culture is just so incredible, very cordial, very hardworking. The village was super clean. The food was super good. I ate sushi and mushrooms just about every meal. It was it was pretty fantastic. And the experience was just one that I'll never forget.
That's fantastic. And there's been so much development in the sport of goalball, but we as blind people are responsible. We have a responsibility for helping to advance the sport. What can we do?
I think that goalball, for those who are not aware, goalball is very unique in that every Paralympic sport out there, every adapted sport, right, it's a mainstream sport that was changed in some way to accommodate a person with a disability, right? So in the Olympics, you have basketball. In the Paralympics, you have wheelchair basketball. It's the same game, but adapted for a person who's in a wheelchair. Goalball is the one sport that was originally designed specifically for a disabled athlete, for blind athletes in particular. So it's super unique, and you're right, Jessica. In a way, like it's our responsibility to try to get it to grow and to do what it can do, because it's so important not only for elite level competition, but it was originally designed as a rehabilitative game, right? It was designed so that people could compete and find those skill sets. You know, Steve Norman mentioned in his presentation about the CCB how, you know, he felt like he deserved more, like he was capable of more, and that's goalball is a sport specifically designed for that. So I think it starts with each one of us individually. It starts with each of you listening here. You know, because you're visually impaired, that doesn't mean that you cannot be physically fit. That doesn't mean that you can't be involved in sports. You can't be athletic. You can't be active, right? There are a lot of challenges that you face that your sighted peers won't face when it comes to finding fitness, but you are very, very capable. So I think it starts with us learning that you are an athlete, and that you are capable, whether it's, you know, whether everybody here is bound for the Paralympics, which isn't real likely, right? Or it's just becoming a little bit more active in your community. I think it starts with each one of us. And as we do that, as we, you know, as the blind community recognize that we have the ability to be more physical and to be more active, I think it draws people along, and that will promote growth in the sport, and that will continue the legacy of life-changing opportunity that goalball brings.
So when we leave here today and we accept your challenge to all become a little bit more physically active, what resources can we draw upon?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot out there. The NFB itself has its sports and record division, right? Which, Jessica, you're a little bit involved with, so I've heard.
Hey, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. There's a ton of great resources there. The number of sports that are competed in by people who are blind and visually impaired is extremely numerous. You might be really surprised. I've also put together some resources myself. So again, for those who don't know me that well, a little bit of my background. I graduated with my bachelor's in exercise science from Western Michigan University. I spent a number of years working as one of the master trainers for 24-hour fitness. And the last couple of years opened up my own company. And I've been working on resources to help connect people who are blind and visually impaired to fitness, right? Because I know the challenge. I've been an athlete for a long time. I've been visually impaired my whole life. And so I know the challenge that you guys face. And so what I started doing is putting together some resources to help bridge that gap. These resources are growing and developing, but as a few examples, I have a YouTube channel with accessible workout videos on it. It's Revision Training LLC. The name of my company is Revision Training. I have a Facebook group, Revision Training with Tyler Marin, Fitness VIPs. There's a little over 2,000 people in that group, and we chat back and forth about accessible technology when it comes to fitness and different techniques and nutrition and other things like that. And I'm also still working on, and it is quite the project. I'm working on an app, the Revision Fitness app, which will hopefully be available very, very soon. We're in the last stages of development, but it's an app you can download that has built-in audio recordings for learning exercises, fitness plans, different workouts, things that I've put together based off of my experience as a blind trainer and athlete. So there's lots of options out there.
Excellent. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. And on behalf of the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, we celebrate our Team USA Paralympic athletes. We celebrate our women's and men's Team USA goalball team, and we thank you for representing USA so well in Tokyo. Let's give one more cheer for our Paralympic athletes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Tyler. Tyler was former NFB scholarship winner. Don't remember which year, but back a ways. 2009, somebody said out there. Okay, you know, the men's team fell just a little bit short of a medal in Tokyo, and you know, Tyler, everybody tells me Tyler is the best player on that team. He got injured after the first game. Got injured in the first game, so. But we're proud of you, Tyler. We're proud of our team. Let's go, USA! All right. Next, we're going to turn. You know, I put a lot of padding in this agenda, thinking, oh, it'll be easy to accomplish these timelines. But it turns out we're now about 20 minutes behind, so that's the way it goes. Don't worry, we're still going to have lunch, but it's going to be delayed by about 20 minutes. And the next item is Our Kids Are the Future, assuring a high-quality education for blind children. And this is going to be Dr. Tanny Anthony, one of our longtime friends, Director of Access Learning, Literacy and the Literacy Team, Exceptional Student Services Unit, Colorado Department of Education. Let's give a warm Federation welcome to Dr. Tanny Anthony. Tanny?
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Might get a little closer.
A little closer. I have to eat the microphone. So who wants to be the presenter between lunch and me? Not me. So I'm going to just try to hit some high notes. But first, can I just ask, how many parents do we have in the room of children who are blind children? All right. And how many TBIs, O&M working in school districts? All right. Okay. Thank you. So it is true. I work for the Department of Education. I used to think that I was young, and now I realize that I am no longer young because the workforce doesn't even know some of the things that we've experienced. And that's going to be really important to make sure that our history is translated. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we know in the state. We are really fortunate because we are one of the few states in the country that actually counts, we believe, almost all our kids. I'm sure we miss some kids, but if you look at the federal government, they believe that we have about 265 learners who are blind, visually impaired in the state of Colorado. And that's because that is 3 to 21, ages 3 to 21, and kids who have a primary educational label of blindness. But what we know is we have more than that group. So through the Colorado Instructional Materials Center, which we fund through IDA funds, we fund about, I would say, maybe 90 plus part of their budget through the Department of Education. We have about 1,200 kids. And we're really proud of that because we know where our babies are. We know where our infants and toddlers are. We know who's coming into districts. We know our kids in transition programs. And that means that we can really target services. We have over 100 TBIs, teachers of kids who are blind, across the state, about 65 O&M. Almost every district has somebody employed as either a teacher and or a O&M specialist. So for the most part in Colorado, we're doing okay. If you go to even our neighbor states, you're going to hear things called teacher shortages. And right now, I am shopping only 2 positions in this state. That's remarkable. Colorado Springs has 2 positions. I'm very worried about it. But for the most part, I have teachers on hold in the metro area, which is not a good thing. I need to get these teachers employed. But the bottom line is we don't quite face some of the challenges of other states, which is rare and pretty cool. So let me keep going. We also have 3 programs in the state providing early intervention. And why this is so important is that we are starting as soon as we know about the kids so that we can be there for families. So we have CSDB down in Colorado Springs, serves our southeast children, birth through 2. We have Anchor Center for Blind Children here in Denver, which provides a center-based program as well as outreach. And then we have a Shared Vision, which is serving pretty much the rest of the state, unserved by Anchor and CSDB, to get our little ones started. And what's been really nice about that is that this has been an attraction for TBIs to be better trained in early intervention and employed. So it's also become a safety net. So as teachers retire, they actually are contributing to some of these entities because it's contract work. So if I tell my teachers, don't let your teacher license lapse, don't let your O&M license lapse, because there's another career for you working with little kids. So not only do we have the baby programs, but we have a beautiful transition and employability program down at CSDB. So our goal is to protect our kids from birth through 21. Some kids leave us at 18 when they graduate. Some kids hang on 19, 20, 21. So for the most part in Colorado, we have good, strong services across the state. Sometimes there's some spotty places, I will be the first to admit, in our rural areas. But for the most part, we're covering the state with personnel working with kids. So that's important. We also have a deaf-blind grant. So I'm looking at our table with interpreters and I'm smiling because we have little people that we've identified who are deaf-blind, and we follow these kids birth through 21. There's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening in the state right now with partnerships with the Commission for the Deaf and Deaf-Blind. We just saw, quite honestly, the birth of a community intervener program for our families birth through 21. So lots are happening with deaf-blindness as well. So one thing I do want to tell you is the pandemic has been tough. It's been tough on our kids. It's been tough on our teachers. It's been tough on our families. But I will also say to you, I felt very heartened early on with the pandemic because people pivoted fast and rose to the occasion. And one of the things that happened with the pandemic is what we're calling Bvi Office Hours. So what I've done, and I haven't done a great job this year due to some personal circumstances, but twice a month we're offering Zoom meetings to parents can join us, teachers, students with visual impairments, O&Ms, paras, anybody who's interested. And it first started out just being me on the line for an hour saying, what can I do for you? What needs to happen? And what happened that was really brilliant is that the teachers who showed up with problems and they showed up with solutions. And sometimes I just got out of their way. I just literally provided the virtual format and we had discussions about what do we do? I have a Braille reader whose family speaks Spanish and internet is spotty. So how do we do that because somebody's not going into the home? And what I heard was phenomenal problem solving. Somebody from another part of the state would say, well, let me tell you how I do it. We did a lot of what I call porch braille, where people drop things off in families' porches, a lot of equipment, a lot of braille, sometimes a little food. Somebody said, you know, I have the braille cards. We put the Spanish words behind them. We coached the families. Lots of things continued to happen. I think Trina Broyd was probably the only person in the state that continued with some serious O&M lessons via virtual iPad. I'm not quite sure how she did it, but she did do it. So we continued to find ways to serve children. Harder with our kiddos who were deaf-blind, but for the most part, things happened. Now, where it's at for this school year is we are foraging back to in-person. Certainly, kids are back in school in many districts. We've also had 2 regional low vision clinics that we've done, one in Grand Junction, one just recently up north in Fort Collins, where we brought in our low vision optometrist, as well as a teacher who's working with those kids to really do some assessments for prescriptive devices. We canceled those clinics last year, so they're back in action. Right now, I think I am the only consultant at CDE in my unit who is on paper getting ready for an in-person conference. In January, if we hold with the pandemic, we will gather our teachers to come talk about the science of reading. And why that's important is that I think a couple years ago when I had the chance to meet with you, I expressed some concerns about how our kids are doing with good norm reading expectations. And there's a question. We're seeing more and more children struggling with the early kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade reading. So the Department of Ed has funded a free online course for all teachers in the state working with kindergartners through third grade, course specific to the science of reading. So it's not specific to, hey, I'm a kid who's blind, but guess what? We believe that our kids deserve good gen ed instruction in the science of reading, and our kids can do it. So we're putting that onus on our general ed teachers, but what we're going to do in January is we're going to bring out Dr. Frances Mary DeAndrea, and she's going to do what I call tell the rest of the story. So where are the areas that we need to shore up for kids who are Braille readers? It's not about the Braille code, but just making sure that the 5 components of reading are always done in an accessible format, that we're really drilling down, when is this a situation of a lack of access versus when is this a situation that this is a kid who may also have an organic reading challenge. So that's going to be our focus in January. If all goes well, we will gather in person. If not, we'll convert it to a virtual training. But I'm really hungry to get the teachers back in the room because I'm sure many of you sitting here today are glad to be back in the room. It feels good, doesn't it? It feels really good. So I'm hopeful that we'll get them back in the room, because what I will tell you is sometimes I'm that proud mother who sits back and says, I didn't make that happen. I just brought people together, but I see mentorships from Delta to Denver, where the Delta teachers reaches out to one of the teachers in the metro area. They don't call me, they call each other. So we have a pretty tight community in Colorado with our personnel. I offer a listserv. It's the only listserv with the Department of Ed that's interactive. And what that means is just not me sending out, hey, you need to know this, you need to know this, hey, there's an NFB convention, are you signed up? People can post their challenges. What's the best embosser to buy? And then guess what? The people who buy embossers get to answer that questions. It's not coming to me. So and I don't let anybody else on these listserv. I'm very protective because I want it to be a safe place for people to ask questions and get information and do the next steps. So the truth is, if we make it in January in person, I think we are going to do some really good stuff, because I'm concerned about our kids being the best readers from kindergarten all the way on. And if there's a problem, we need to shore it up. We need to figure out, is it that the kid doesn't have enough time with experts who know reading? Is it that the kid doesn't have time with experts who know Braille? How are we working together? So I'm hoping by next year we come back, we'll tell you how that course went. And then the last thing I just want to say that is close to my heart, and actually I'd like a pulse on this. If you think I'm on the wrong track, I think you should tell me. But one of the things that's happened across our country, and very much so in Colorado, is what we call EDI work, equity, diversity, and inclusion work. And sometimes you know how things come around and you think it's important, but maybe people aren't giving lip service. I think this is a really big area to dig into. So I was reading, Mark, the NFB monitor, and there was a guy talking about voting and access and having ways to sign up for voting, and also people knowing where they get their COVID shots and that there's accessible websites so people can do it. So I've started a request of the teachers, and I would love to hear back from you about what are real life examples. What does EDI really look like? And what spawned me on this was Joe Pinto. So by any chance, is Joe in the room? She's virtual. So Joe's one of my Facebook buds. And one day she wrote this beautiful Facebook post about what does it mean really to have inclusion in your life. And I read it and I thought, my goodness, this is a gift. So I shot her an email and said, can I please steal this? And I'm trying to say to the teachers, talk with your kids, because I will tell you, it's the stories sometimes that make the difference. So on the side from CDE, I teach a course every January to budding special education directors. It's really a gift. It's through the UNC program, and they actually require that all personnel who want to be special education directors have to take a course. And it's kind of an antiquated title, but I'm almost afraid to ask them to change it, because if they do, they may take away the focus. But it is a specific course on blindness, deafness, and deafblindness. And I cannot tell you, almost every single person taking this course said, how come I've never had any training? How come I don't know about these populations? How can I be a better administrator? But I will tell you, one of the things that I have found, I think I'm in my 5th year of teaching the course, is that I am still chasing the myths of the sadness of blindness. I have to work so hard for people not to feel sorry, for people not to almost have low expectations. So part of what I want to gather with these stories is, what does it look like when it's right? And you know what? It's so easy, but sometimes it's an elusive easy. So when Joe put together her inclusive neighbors, what they do, if I told you about it, you'd go, yeah, that's what I hope for. People that really explain what's for dinner with detail, so I have full choices. It's sometimes the easiest stuff that provides the clarity. And so I want to collect some of these messages, because what I want special ed directors to hear, general ed teachers to hear, people who work with me at the Department of Education, is sometimes it's as simple as just speaking things out loud so everybody knows what's going on. That's part of being inclusive. So I've said to my boss, I want to collect stories. I don't want them to be Tanny stories. I want them to be stories from the field, from adults, from kids, etc. So if you have a story, I'd love for you to share it. What does it really mean for people to be included? What does it really mean to have diversity? So not to tip my hand, but I will also tell you another thing that's troubling me, is that I've had a situation probably over the years, but something more recent that tells me we have some discrimination in my field. And here's what I will tell you. I believe people like me get up every single day to be a supporter of a kid who needs little extra help on Braille. How do we do abacus? How do we do technology? We are here to serve the kid so kids are fully included. We see kids, we don't see anything but a kid. But the truth is, what I'm realizing is some of the very people who stand next to me at my meetings may not always have a heart that's pure when it comes to hiring somebody who's blind, visually impaired. Can you? And I will tell you, it makes me cry. It makes me profoundly altered. So that is also on my list, to gather the people who live this every day, my teachers in the field. And I say my, not like I own them, but that they're my peeps. Does that make sense? That we belong together, to give me some insight so that I can be a better advocate, I can be better informed, I can do whatever I can. But I think some of this is giving it the light of day. So I will tell you, the 3 things on my mind is reading for our kids, employment for our kids, and certainly the personnel who are trained to support them, and also this EDI work in as an authentic way as possible. So if you have stories, guidance, admin, if you want to like lecture me and say, Tanny, you're off your rocker, that's okay. I was raised by an attorney. I'm really good. I can handle it. Scott? My dad was a good guy, he was a federal judge, and I grew up at the table of somebody who taught me to ask questions and work hard at not thinking I have all the answers. So with that, what I will say to you is that we have 1,200 kids in this state who look up to you as adults. They need your role models. They need your stories, because it can be a really lonely place out there to be an N of one kid, maybe the only kid in third grade classroom. So help me with these stories. What does it look like when we do it right? Sometimes we talk about what does it look like when we do it wrong, but for those of you who have the stories, what does it look like when it worked? I heard some today when I was sitting listening already. If you would ever just let me know, whether you want to call me, email me, text me, I would like to start putting those stories out there so that people know what it looks like. And it's really not that hard. It's just being good folks and being respectful. So with that, I'm not going to get in the way of your lunch anymore. I appreciate you gathering, and thank you for being here in person for those of you who could do it.
Thank you, Jenny. Kevin Worley, you seek the floor for what purpose?
I don't think I told you I was going to seek the floor,
No.
Mr. President, but
Here.
I'm seeking the floor.
They're right here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm looking for a mic here. Okay, very good. Let me pop this mask a little bit there. First of all, Joe Elizabeth Pindo, we love you. You're a wonderful author, and you will be in the November Blind Colorado blog. You'll also be, people don't know this, well, this is important stuff here. She will also be published in the November Braille Monitor. So that's a wonderful. All right, so that's good. Second of all, Dr. Anthony, you come here every year, and we appreciate your spirit. You are a glass half full educator. You absolutely, as you would say, I will tell you, you are an outstanding leader and educator. The thing I want to challenge you a little bit about is that in 1986, 87, 88, we decided in the National Federation of Blind in Colorado, we were going to start a training center. Rehab didn't want us to start a training center. They opposed us at every turn. How Diane and Ray and her team put together a few dollars to start a training center has always amazed me, but we did. We started with 4 students, and now we have regularly 25 or 30 students all the time, even during pandemic, as you heard Julie talk. A couple of years ago, Michelle Chacon and others came to me as the manager of our project literacy programs and said we want to find an alternative to the public school system for blind kids. We love working with CSDB. We love working with the Anchor Center. We are going to start something different and new and revolutionary in Colorado, and we want your department to be with us, not against us. We're starting small with our Learning Box programs, with our homework clubs, with some of the other things that we do. We have the support of the American Action Fund for the Blind. We have others in the field that are going to work with us. The CSDB, when we brought it to their attention, immediately put up walls of resistance. We understand that. They're public. They don't want to lose any students. We don't want to go against anybody. We want to complement what you do. What I'm asking for you to do is anything you can to support our private school initiative as it evolves. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Kenny, do you want to respond at all? Or? Okay, here. There you are.
Yeah, so here's what I would say to you. I am a Department of Education employee, and I have bosses. So when things come to the department, sometimes the department is silent, not because they don't support, but because they cannot show support if there are politics. Imagine that. So what I would say to you is that I don't think the Department of Ed would ever not support a private school, but what they have to be careful of is something that looks like there's favoritism over one to another. So private schools, we do a lot of work with, charter schools, and at that time, I think what was on the table was a charter school. Charter schools are public schools. Whoops, okay, we're taking a picture here. So I would say to you, please don't worry that CDE wouldn't support it, but just know that I have to follow what I'm asked to do and what I'm asked not to do. And so I think the episode that we're talking about is we were asked to send out a survey to parents. When I asked permission, I was said, we need to remain silent on this. This happens all the time. There's, for example, right now, there's an early childhood state department that's being formed. We are not participating in those discussions. We are only responding to the questions that come our way, because there are people who think it's a good idea and people who think it's not a good idea. So what I would say to you is that there wouldn't be anything that would be contrary. It just may not be, what's the opposite of contrary?
Anti-contrary.
Anti-contrary. I don't have a good word for it. But I will say to you, the one thing I do know is that when people call the Department of Ed and they want to know about blindness, they get to me. So I want you to hear, I'm your friend in this. I'm your friend in anything that benefits blind children. But I will also tell you, I'm not allowed to talk to legislators. I cannot lobby because I'm a state employee. So that's where the rubber kind of hits the road, that sometimes we have to be mute, but I can always be supportive and guide behind the scenes as appropriate. So just understand, I am a state employee.
What I would just follow up by saying to the department, I mean, you represent the department. And my old friend Jim Gasser used to say to me, lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Okay.
Well, and we don't have time to delve into that issue that occurred last year, but I think there was a misapprehension of what we were attempting to accomplish. But we can talk about that later. Annie, I thank you for being here today. I thank you for having high expectations. I thank you for your support of the future, a bright future for blind kids. Thank you so much. All right, we're now going to have some lunch. We're a little bit behind schedule, about 15 minutes, but that's okay. Hopefully we'll make it up in the afternoon. Oh, you want a door prize, do you? All right, we'll do a door prize. And Lisa Bonderson, make your way up here. What do we got?
All right, so we have some espresso beans, and we have another chance from the Mile High chapter to win some AirPods. And while she's drawing the name, I just want to plug that. Find me or Cody or Nate Hecker or Gary or Susie DeMello to buy chances to win these AirPods. You can buy one ticket for $5, or one chance for $5, or 5 chances for $20.
All right. All right, who won?
Laura Miller.
Laura, are you here? She's
Nope,
not here?
Not here, okay.
Is she on Zoom? Laura.
And you must find us before.
There's a Laura with a hand raised, I'm told. Is that you?
Laura?
No? Zoom people, tell me.
Laura has to raise her hand.
She has?
She has.
I got a text from her, she is here.
All right, great. All right, so here is the lovely and talented Lisa Bonderson, who's going to tell you how you can box today. All right, here.
All right.
So to speak.
Okay, so we have got the boxed lunches set up in the foyer. What I would like you to do, we've got 3 doors at the back of the room. As you face the back of the room, I want you to go out the far right-hand door. That'll land you in the hallway. You'll take a left, and then there's a lot of staff who will help you grab your sandwich. We have got smoked turkey, there's ham and Swiss, and we have the vegetarian options for those that order them. Once you get your sandwich, you'll move on forward, and there are soft drinks just inside the doorway. We have Pepsi products. There's Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, Sierra Mist, and bottled water, and there might be a few other things. So you do not need to make a mad rush to the back of the room. There are plenty of sandwiches, trust me. And at this time, I would like the people who have ordered the special meals, the vegetarians, the gluten-frees, to please go to the back of the room and collect your meals. And then if we could just have a nice orderly transition to the back of the room, we'll get those sandwiches picked up. Thank you.
Yeah.